Imagine a vast desert, an endless expanse of golden sands stretching out in every direction. The sun beats down relentlessly, casting a harsh, unyielding light over the barren landscape. Sand dunes rise and fall like waves in an ocean, stretching as far as the eye can see. This is Egypt, a land shaped by extremes, where the desert meets the sky in a stark, beautiful contrast. Yet amidst this arid landscape flows a lifeline, the Nile River, a ribbon of life cutting through the desolation. The Nile is the longest river in the world, a majestic waterway that has nurtured civilizations for millennia. It journeys for thousands of miles, winding its way through diverse landscapes and cultures. Its journey begins in the heart of Africa, where it gathers strength from numerous tributaries. The Nile flows north towards the Mediterranean Sea, bringing with it the promise of life and sustenance. Along its path, it brings life to the Egyptian desert, transforming barren sands into fertile lands. Without the Nile, Egypt would be just a barren desert, devoid of the lush greenery that lines its banks. There would be no fertile land for crops, no fields of wheat and barley that have sustained its people for centuries. There would be no water for people to drink, no source of hydration in this arid environment. The Nile is Egypt's lifeline, a vital artery that has supported life and civilization for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians understood the importance of the Nile, building their lives and culture around its nourishing waters. They called it Ar or Our, meaning black, a reference to the rich, dark soil it deposited. This referred to the rich black silt the river deposited on its banks after its annual flood, creating fertile grounds for agriculture. This fertile soil was the foundation of Egyptian civilization, enabling the growth of crops and the development of a thriving society. The Nile River was essential for the development of ancient Egyptian civilization. It was more than just a body of water, it was the lifeblood of an entire culture. Its annual floods brought life-giving water and fertile silt to the land. These floods were predictable and allowed the Egyptians to plan their agricultural activities with remarkable precision. The Egyptians learned to predict the floods. They observed the river closely and developed early measuring tools to gauge the water levels. They developed sophisticated irrigation systems. These systems allowed them to control the flow of water, ensuring that their crops received the necessary hydration even during dry periods. This allowed them to grow crops in abundance. The fertile land produced a variety of crops, including wheat, barley, and flax, which were essential for their diet and economy. The reliable food supply from agriculture allowed the Egyptian population to grow. With a stable food source, communities could expand and thrive. People had time to develop other skills. They became proficient in various crafts, from pottery to metalwork, which contributed to the richness of Egyptian culture. They became artisans, builders, and scribes. These professions were crucial for the construction of monumental structures and the recording of their history and knowledge. This led to the rise of cities and complex social structures. Urban centers became hubs of administration, trade, and culture. The Nile also served as a vital transportation route. Boats traveled up and down the river, facilitating the movement of people and goods. It connected communities across the vast expanse of Egypt. This connectivity was essential for maintaining the unity of the civilization. Boats laden with goods and people traversed the river's length. This movement was crucial for trade and the exchange of ideas. The Nile unified Egypt, facilitating trade, communication, and cultural exchange. It was the thread that wove the fabric of Egyptian society together. Without the Nile, there would have been no pharaohs, pyramids, or hieroglyphs. The river's bounty made these achievements possible. The river's presence was the single most important factor in the birth and flourishing of one of the world's oldest and most influential civilizations. Its impact is still felt today, a testament to its enduring legacy. The contrast between the Nile River's banks and the surrounding desert is stark. The river's edge is a vibrant green ribbon against the monotonous beige of the desert. Here life flourishes. Palm trees sway in the breeze, their roots drinking deep from the Nile. Fields of barley and wheat ripple in the wind, promising sustenance. People built their homes close to the riverbanks, taking advantage of the fertile land and abundant water. Villages dotted the Nile's course, bustling with activity. Children played on the river's edge, fishermen cast their nets into the flowing waters, and farmers tended to their crops. The desert, on the other hand, remained a harsh and unforgiving environment. Few dared to venture far from the Nile's life-giving waters. The contrast highlighted the Nile's absolute importance. It was a sanctuary, a haven, and the very source of life in an otherwise desolate land. The Nile River was not just a source of food and water for the ancient Egyptians, it was the engine of their economy. The fertile land surrounding the Nile produced a surplus of crops. This surplus allowed the Egyptians to engage in trade with other civilizations. The Nile's navigable waters served as highways of commerce. Ships laden with grain, papyrus, linen and gold traveled the river's length. They connected with trade routes that stretched as far as Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. This trade brought wealth and prosperity to Egypt. It also facilitated cultural exchange. Ideas, technologies, and artistic styles flowed along the Nile, enriching Egyptian civilization. The river was the economic heart of Egypt, pumping lifeblood into the nation's veins. The ancient Egyptians held the Nile River in high regard, considering it the lifeblood of their civilization. They recognized its vital role in their lives as it provided water for drinking, irrigation for crops, and a means of transportation. The Nile was not just a geographical feature, it was a deity central to their spiritual and daily existence. They worshipped it as Hapi, the god of the annual flood, who was believed to bring fertility and abundance to the land. Hapi was a benevolent god, depicted as a plump figure with large breasts, symbolizing fertility and abundance. His image was a reminder of the prosperity the Nile brought. The annual flood was a cause for celebration, marking the start of a new agricultural cycle. It was seen as Hapi's gift, renewing the land and ensuring a bountiful harvest, which was crucial for their survival. The Egyptians held elaborate festivals in Hapi's honor, offering prayers and sacrifices to ensure the flood's arrival and the continued fertility of their fields. The Nile's significance permeated Egyptian mythology and cosmology, influencing their understanding of the world and the universe. The river was seen as a reflection of the Milky Way in the heavens, connecting the earthly and the divine. It was believed that the souls of the deceased traveled along the Nile to the afterlife, making it a sacred pathway to eternity. The river's ebb and flow mirrored the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, solidifying its sacred status in the Egyptian worldview. The Nile was truly the heart of ancient Egyptian culture, shaping their lives in profound ways. Section 6, a lifeline threatened, challenges to the Nile's bounty. While the Nile River was the lifeblood of Egypt, its annual floods were not always predictable. A weak flood could spell disaster. It meant less fertile silt deposited on the banks. This resulted in smaller harvests and widespread famine. Conversely, an excessively strong flood could be equally devastating. It could inundate and destroy homes, crops, and livestock. The Egyptians lived with this delicate balance. They depended on the Nile's generosity while respecting its potential for destruction. Drought posed another constant threat. A prolonged lack of rainfall in the Nile's headwaters could reduce the river's flow. This would lead to water shortages and hardship. The Egyptians understood the precariousness of their existence. They depended on forces beyond their control for survival. Section 7, Modern Marvels, Harnessing the Nile's Power. As Egypt transitioned into the modern era, so did its relationship with the Nile. The construction of the Aswan High Dam in the 20th century marked a turning point. This massive feat of engineering gave Egypt greater control over the Nile's flow. The dam created Lake Nasser, one of the world's largest man-made reservoirs. This ensured a more regular water supply for irrigation. It also generated hydroelectric power, providing much-needed electricity to power Egypt's growing cities and industries. However, the dam's construction came at a cost. The annual floods, which had deposited fertile silt for millennia, were halted. This led to increased reliance on artificial fertilizers. It also impacted the delicate ecosystem of the Nile Delta. Section 8, the future of the lifeline, preserving Egypt's treasure. Today, the Nile River faces new challenges. Pollution from industrial and agricultural runoff threatens the health of the river. Population growth and increasing demand for water resources put a strain on the Nile's ability to provide. Climate change adds another layer of complexity. Rising sea levels threaten to inundate the fertile Nile Delta. Changes in rainfall patterns could exacerbate droughts or floods. Protecting the Nile River is paramount for Egypt's future. Sustainable water management practices, pollution control measures, and regional cooperation are essential to ensure that the Nile continues to be the lifeblood of Egypt for generations to come. It is a shared responsibility, requiring a delicate balance between human needs and environmental preservation. Section 9. The Nile's Enduring Legacy, a Testament to Life. The Nile River stands as a testament to the power of nature to shape human destiny. For millennia, this river has been the lifeblood of Egypt, sustaining its people, shaping its culture, and inspiring its art and mythology. From the ancient Egyptians who worshipped Hapi to the modern Egyptians who rely on the Aswan High Dam, the Nile's influence on Egyptian civilization is undeniable. It is a reminder that despite technological advancements, humans remain deeply connected to the natural world. The story of the Nile is a story of resilience, adaptation, and the enduring bond between a river and a civilization. As long as the Nile flows, so too will the spirit of Egypt, forever linked to its life-giving waters.